Good afternoon, good evening, it's 5:32. April 16th, it's a Wednesday, and we are starting our planning and zoning work meeting. And in attendance is Ms. Lee Ballard and Mr. Kent Peterson and myself, Darlene Pope. All right, and as always, our first topic. And Mr. Smedley, if you would like to just get one of the chair. That would be fine.
We just pass out the copy to each of you in case you want to.
The first one draft.
Yeah, this is, I just, I put it all together because it was becoming,
I agree.
I wanted to be able to see all the stuff,
Yeah,
be able to compare and go back and forth.
and then, you want to share a computer with me to see our comments?
Sure.
Or with me? So, I'm just gonna go to review and share all comments. I think that makes things a lot easier. Okay,
Okay, sure,
does that work?
works.
And then I'll send you this document after
That's
this
awesome,
meeting.
that'd be great.
And then if we have anything to add, maybe I'll ask them to add in since for computers and timeless.
The one thing I will state is that there's a section that we haven't done all these before.
Yeah, the public works.
Yeah.
Did we go for economic? Okay,
Well, the one section we haven't done for a long.
yeah, I noticed the public works section. Ken, are you able to find this document? Or are you just gonna go up the hard copy? If you wanna see the comments, we can help you locate it on your computer.
We're talking about general comment.
Yes.
I'll just go up to that.
Okay,
Right.
so, because we have, some of us made comments on the document, so I don't know if you want to say those. But you can look on these computers as well.
I can read off.
Okay. All right, so. Do you want to leave this discussion?
Well, why don't you walk me through where your comments are?
Okay, so we started, the first comment is on the vision statement. And, we had sent you one.
That's what I thought you sent me.
This is what I sent you here. Where vision, page 3.
Because what's the copy that I looked at,
I sent, this was on a separate document, I never got feedback on it.
okay,
And I
well then, because this is what I thought you kind of, so.
Yeah, so, I don't know, do you have thoughts on that, or you just wondered what you're thinking?
Well, I thought it was great.
Okay, so that would have to be just be replaced here.
Yeah.
That's the easy thing. Okay, and then.
Can you resolve that as you go?
Leave it
Not-
this way, because then I can't see what you changed.
Oh, okay,
right?
so I'm gonna send them the PDF with comments,
Okay,
so I think that's informative, because you can
Yeah.
remember everything.
right.
And then on the introduction, so this is the same thing I said here, right?
Hmm,
And
that,
do we have any comments? The introduction, was that okay? She said, oh. I don't think there's anything there. I think that's fine. So on page 7, are we good, please?
Sorry,
Page 7, are we good?
page 7.
The one that has introduction?
That says page 1.
Well, it's page 7 of the PDF. Let's go by page 1 of the actual document.
Okay,
Since Ken is looking at the people document.
yes, if we're gonna put the struck out part in and strike out the thing below it, that the idea?
Yes. Yes.
This is good.
And that's what I.
Yes, that part is good.
so
That-
is it,
Yeah.
maybe I got mixed up then, is this the one? Okay, then I was confused by the comments.
Okay, we just wanted to clarify if there's something you saw that we didn't see.
No, that,
Oh, I have one.
Okay, on page
Oh, wait, it's the next page.
2? There's nothing on page
Page
2.
3.
So page 3, there's 4 comments, and there's one on the introductory paragraph.
okay.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, right. It looks like it says 4 point,
That's just because it's underlined.
oh, real, oh, so it's a comma, but it's, okay.
I'll verify that. Yeah, the underline just kind of obliterated.
You lose the word tail, it's not.
Her original was severe. What would, so this comment, it should just
She
show
got it.
up, she got it? There, oh, there are way more than 5 big. Okay. And then this next one is floodways. And I believe, yeah, addition to the underline. Under, well, this paragraph.
Okay, so.
Have you rephrased it? Because this one was like a bullet, like,
Right.
and these were like not, so.
Yes.
And, if you want to read that sentence next time. Then, from this one, I'm going to. Friends. Paragraph, this is new. Because. We're like, is there no mention of a room here? We wanted to know your thoughts on that. The document, general time with comments in our folder. Are you able to locate that, Cameron?
Yeah, I'm sure I will be able to.
That sounds great.
Okay, and then. Okay, and then moving on to page 4. Comment, all time. Just a comment here, you said slight to moderate, and I just referenced that least moderate. It says legal and limited, shows large areas, pretty somewhere. Oh, this is not. That reference,
Yeah.
I mean,
What files is there?
2025, April work, actually, I think it's the last one of the general plan. That leads us to desired outcomes. And the first one is preservation, I think that. I just think,
That's not there.
but that's the first one, here's the next one. This desire, these desires, I think we're only. During public opinion, the preserving and expense was expressed. The energy conservation. Also. These desires. And use the ones in promoting, encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, ignore me. Let's just get rid of this one, okay? Okay. And then, I don't know why someone's red, that's you, right, showing how things have changed.
Yeah, red underline and the red stripe through.
Right, and then at the bottom of page 4, goals and policies. policies. I just wondered, is that the best, I wanted to know commissioners' thoughts about that. That's, well, come on.
Right,
I just wondered if, you thought about
So-
the other one,
is it,
like,
is it already required in the code, is the question, so.
yes,
If it's not required in the code,
develop,
then we might want, we want to change it to develop language in the code that will require.
yeah, it's
Okay.
more directed, this to me seems kind of vague or serious. Let's get it. So on bottom page 4,
Under developer serve.
are you fine with it, Bruce?
I can't hear what you guys are talking about, so.
Oh. It says, on the bottom of page 4, under goals and policies, the first
Are you
goal
talking about page 4 as listed in the document or page 4 as in?
in the document, as listed in the document.
Going by the documentation.
And, says encourage adequate infrastructure and careful design to minimize environmental impact. And,
And that's the question I have, because I'm not sure what this means, because.
yeah,
So is it in your code that you have these requirements that they have to meet in order to develop?
they're not very specific, that's one of the things we're working on, actually.
So then,
Are you with us, Lee?
are,
You still can't hear?
I can't really hear what you said.
Why don't you come around here? I'll figure it out.
so this is under the integrity of the environment, character and integrity of the environment.
Yes. I don't think we have any standards currently. We say there should be.
I think there are,
Right.
of what infrastructure is.
Keep that in there.
May I suggest we plug into the screen and then bring it all together, so you guys
would like our work tables.
what,
We would like.
to kind of come into one here. Yeah, you want me to project it on the screen?
We don't have a copy.
Okay, sure, I was just thinking, see if I'd be able to.
What about Cameron?
Maybe
Sure, I invited him. Scoot over this way, scoot over.
It shouldn't shut you out. I don't know. Okay, see if it works now. Yeah, I just had to go in and accept it. The first thing we opened up, we're gonna computer, I think all it was.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Maybe what is meant by, encourage adequate infrastructure to minimize environmental impacts. I think probably putting things underground like electricity. Having, that kind of a thought, like if we take, look at something like Rio de Sion or Sierra Bella, the requirements we made long ago for those developments to put electricity underground.
What about grading, doesn't this address grading?
Pardon?
Grading,
Road width.
like for undisturbing and preserving drainage ways? Is that the intent?
Yeah. So.
Here's what
Yeah,
you're
careful
talking
design
about,
to
flood drainage.
minimize environmental impact. What do you think it means? Yeah.
Well, that could be in there as well as, that could be in there as well as the town now is developing or has, is going to institute a study by engineers for what we want to do with the floodplain
Yes,
problems.
Yeah.
So that's just been decided by the town last night, town council.
Okay,
That could be included in that particular paragraph, but I think it is kind of vague as to what that means, but I can see what it can mean is as little environmental impact as we develop as possible.
as possible. I would like,
For that.
Cameron,
The night sky, part of that,
you want to say?
having a dark sky, a night sky. Last night, the town council passed the dark sky ordinance, the new lighting ordinance, which would be also incorporated into that kind of sensitivity to the environment.
I'm glad you mentioned putting power underground, because that's been sort of a favorite rant of mine.
Especially with
wish-
the
and-
I
know.
well, that's where that.
How many fires have we had here because of that power line, over power lines? And I think we could probably get infrastructure money to put it underground, put it all underground.
Cameron, you had a different take on this?
I don't think that sentence means anything.
You don't think it means anything?
No, I think it's just a bunch of words that don't really have any meaning.
So since it's under the goal of preserving the character and integrity of the environment. What you said, Ken, stood out to me, it says, make as little environmental impact as possible when developing that.
Yeah.
That's your policy,
Okay.
right?
Well, that's vague.
Right.
Yeah, that's hard to.
And then, but that can
Maybe
extend
this is the
by,
vague part.
by putting,
Yeah.
and that can be added on, it could be both. It could be by adding power and random, by addressing.
And use some
Well,
examples.
yeah, just. some
Yeah, just
examples.
play.
That work. Cause I didn't even address that because I was like, okay, I'm not sure the other intent, I wasn't clear on the intent was that.
Well, I'd like to hear Cameron's opinion about that, because there's a real local, not bad, but there's a real local feel from Cameron. I know, if we were talking about the tree streets above BYU, then I can give you my opinion, because that's where I was raised from day one, and Cameron's been raised since day one, and I'd like to know his opinions about these things.
I think that's fine. I think what you said means something. What it says here doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone said a different thing that it means at this table, and so that means it means nothing.
It's too broad.
It's not that it just doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's fine, encouraging,
Okay.
reducing environmental impact on developing is, sounds like, I don't know, it's,
And how would we change the second one?
I have a note here, you can change it, this is what I have down. And then I will add it in. So you can just change, well, if you try and go into my comment, it will just create a comment. If that's, I'm not on it.
Well,
So that, you can just ignore that. So anything you do on mine will just create another comment, or you can just reply to it and just say, just put this down,
you want me to put it?
or I just have a note here.
I don't see your comment.
I have a note here,
If
so
you click on anything that's red. you will see the suggestion.
anything that's red is either mine, take it out
But it-
or
That's
put
why,
it in.
I just allow us, it just allows us to accept and reject. It allows us to accept and reject. That's it.
Right. So,
So we accept that it's a good question.
I have a note here, and I'll clarify that, in sitting here and writing it out, and what. Based on what Kent said, based on the discussion, I can put that together.
Okay.
And get it back to you.
And then, encourage conservation.
Under that goal.
Is the natural drainage passages or engineered and approved alternative? This is like an either or. You can do this or you can do that. And my question is sometimes one okay? And the other times the other is okay? Rather than for every drainage system, you can do either.
Yeah,
In other words,
We-
are there some drainage systems that should not be messed with? And some that maybe we could
And I
engineer.
think there may be a sensitive lands ordinance coming soon that would answer that question.
Yeah,
okay. So you are putting together sensitive lands and things.
yeah. Charged director with that a few weeks ago. Larry's request.
When you say sensitive lands, do you, I mean, my first thought was, our problems with, sewage, levels, readings, whatever those nitrates and stuff, readings, or are we talking about sensitive flood lands, erosion,
Mesas,
or are we talking
cliffs,
about both?
cliffs,
What do we mean by
mesas,
sensitive lands?
cliffs, ridge
Are we
lines.
talking about viewscapes?
Yes.
And
Drainages.
Generally, sensitive lands are defined universally as, it would include slopes, it would include drainages, it would include, plants that are, you know, like you have a little marsh area,
archaeology.
just stuff like that. It's not something that's man-made.
So repairing.
Unless it's
So,
historic.
Yes,
correct. It's not something that
those
we,
aren't sensitive ones, though.
They're
Those are
part,
historical sites.
but they're considered part of that same.
sometimes they can be, depends on.
Maybe there's subdivision orders.
It's, if it's created a new ecosystem, then it's old. New, old, you know.
What's old?
Yeah,
Be careful how you answer that.
there are two.
All right,
Okay,
and then moving on to page 5
okay.
of the document. Next, do you have a question?
No.
Any other comments on page 4? And then goals, view preservation. Once again, it's the same thing, right?
Right. So, well, my question was, it's listed as viewscapes.
You should.
Generally, the viewscape is something from this particular point that you're going, this is the viewscape here. A view shed is a broader definition. So,
And what does that mean?
so it's from, the view shed is anywhere in your community, you have different views, right? So it's not like, okay, you come to this spot and stand in this place, you'll be able to see this.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
so we want view shed. I think, is that okay with me? It's more broad.
It's a broader definition. That was my,
Do you think the use of encouragement is adequate? I was thinking preserving. I don't think,
preserve where possible.
yeah,
That's-
and I don't know that we need the word pleasant. I mean, because it's already there, it's implied.
We can't make it more pleasant than it is.
That'd be hard to do. And you can ignore whatever I say.
No, that's good, it's good.
And just saying it. And then there's the introduction to land use elements. I don't think we had any comments. On the next page, page 6, there's one. Oh, here.
On the last sentence.
Should the phrase after can be reached by someone? Oh. Can be reached, where is that? Why is it showing up? Usually it would show up, because I highlighted it. I'm looking at my comment, should the phrases after can be reached have semicolons?
Sorry.
It's just because of all.
We can't hear you.
What are you looking at?
I'm trying to find where I was talking about, I don't see that
It's the
comment.
last paragraph of your. Page 5
Okay,
of.
Oh, no,
that's the part of
You got it,
Yes,
or page
Land
5
use.
of.
yes.
document.
Page 6.
They said
First
I'll
paragraph.
spill over.
current conditions or above that?
It's the last paragraph of the
Might be.
introductory section.
No, I have it here.
Yeah,
Lights up. I don't see where it is now.
well, it's highlighted over there.
No,
Uses. of-
this has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I'll find it. It's, and it's just a
It's
little.
grammatical, okay, all right.
And then, maybe it's the. It's seven. Commercial use. It's talked about one way here. Now where are we? We're on page
They skipped right past your comment, please.
6.
Oh,
Okay, and these comments?
Mhm.
No, we didn't.
Please comment is on the top of page 6.
You need them. No.
click on where the comment balloon, so you
Belongs to some, oh, here.
Your cursor things are over here, so that's why.
Okay, so this is these comments. Why is it not going to comment?
There's no comments between your view one and who's one.
No,
Cursor is letting them right there.
that's good.
Okay.
there you are.
No, alright. Current conditions. No comments there.
Above current conditions, there's a.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out.
I won't show it. It's the same.
Click on the, in the margin on the balloon.
I did.
Oh.
I've been doing that.
So the majority of the town solar systems to go there in
I got with the town park and, because there was no park motion there.
no, there's the park on the north side of the highway.
No.
That's not the city park?
It's a catchment basin.
Okay, well, it's listed as a park.
It's not anymore.
I got, okay,
The town council changed that.
okay. All right.
If you go talk to some people, you get some
You were on the website,
really
right?
good
We
reaction.
updated the website on that.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Good to know.
All right. All right, so that, we figured that one out, right?
Yeah.
So we don't need to click, look, I just need to click on
So we're getting rid of that we can access the river via a developed trailhead on land owned by the Nature Conservancy.
Yes, doesn't.
That's out.
That's okay,
That's out.
That, we talked about that.
Okay. All right,
Contrary to what they said, they didn't leave it open.
say what?
Contrary to what they said, they didn't leave it open
Oh.
when they were asking for money.
But that's when it was. That's when we were asking. I was involved in that project, that's when we were asking for the BLM, and then we can BLM with that. That's going out to them. Okay.
Commercial use?
Yeah, I'm not going to be working on these ordinances right downtown village.
Well, they've changed names.
They have. Yeah.
Is that what your comment here was on, or just on some idea? Did you include it? It's included there. So I,
Can you add the correct names? Oh, okay. Comment,
you can do it just in your own comment. You can't change my comment.
okay. Bring your reply to my comment.
And I did kind of summarize what we had talked about that last time in my comment there.
Okay.
And
Why don't you put names in there? Why don't you just put in there, commercial zone may be split into two diverse commercial units within the neighborhood.
Yeah, because who knows, the name has changed at least 3 or 4 times already.
So,
So, we could say a buffer overlay. Right?
a buffer and center of town,
And
center of
downtown.
Usually agrees to put 64 acres in there. This document's meant to last 5 to 10 years. A 64 will probably be inadequate, be wrong within some point during that. You can just say there are vacant commercially zoned areas within town.
that could be part of the current condition. Or is this?
You could do that in the current, you could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Conditions, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
Why did we remove the highway commercial? Or, why we removed that whole sentence? What was wrong with it?
which one?
Because there isn't really any non-highway commercial?
The highway commercial has been,
Both,
is what?
is both considered. I'm sorry.
From what I could find, there was like very little left to go.
Highway resort,
Mhm.
that's already done that way, yeah,
Right, that's not developed.
right.
So there's a little sliver here and there.
Yeah,
But still no desired outcome to maintain footpath, access.
so it is.
So I just, that's why I'm wondering why we're removing that.
Can you tell me what specific part you're looking at?
That first paragraph is
Yeah.
completely removed.
Oh,
That's been moved, that's just been moved down.
it's been moved down.
Oh.
I had the same reaction, and then when I went to another section, I thought,
Because it's just down below.
that was my question. I said, oh, is it in another place? The answer is, where is the other place? Just further down.
Compared to the rewrite. And that's, it's, I took out the title, commercial,
Okay.
We could put in remaining highway resort, right?
Well, I don't care, I just didn't know why the rest of that was being removed.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and then I second ready,
It's just addressed in slightly different words
yeah,
further down.
yeah, so we can look at that one. And then on the trails, my comment was, a pedestrian friendly, is a high priority. Perhaps a pedestrian friendly town that preserves Virgin Town's natural setting is a high priority. I just rephrased it.
all in the trail. Right?
And then I answered my own question on that one, and the flood plain is. So that brings us to page 7. That's good, it's pretty good. That's Lee's comment.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to point out that there are in fact some historic buildings in Virgin. I know there aren't a lot left, but there are a few.
Okay. And what other,
You asked if,
Oh, okay.
I thought you asked, but I don't see your question now. Are there any old?
No, the only home up by where I live is, well, I guess there's two, there's grandma's, but it's on the other side of the river over on Allen's property, and then there's the 101.
Yeah. What was it? The 101? Oh. Well, they burned down in the thirties, I think, and they rebuilt it, but
It's a wild
it's
place.
still pretty old thirties.
It's over 50 years that can qualify,
Ah,
so just, that's the definition of.
well, there's probably here.
Well, when our Amanda's house.
That's older than 50, isn't that an old?
Correct, it is old.
It's an old one, yeah, it's just one of their,
It's
that's
probably
what
shows
Gina
up,
told me.
it shows up on the map I gave you of the.
Yeah,
ranges.
yeah. Okay,
If the assessor's database is correct.
So it's the,
from,
Gucci.
oh, yeah, that's a beautiful, too old, yeah, street, yeah.
And it used to be 2 stories.
And then there's the one that's falling down over here.
Yeah,
So sad.
it's sad. And the one across from the church, is that what you're pointing at? I think so, yeah. There's another one on 100 West. On the right.
Cabin,
Cabin.
log cabin.
Yeah,
And we've got our, is this the jail?
and the jail.
The jail. See, and the building in which we sit, and that building,
Yeah.
and the post office. Formerly known as the post office.
And before that, the Mohawk Bay, which was, we'll talk about.
Oh, but that was in Mohawk Cafe.
Yes, it was.
How long ago was that?
1940s and 50s, around.
Well, up until more recently,
It was the cafe.
the cafe, there wasn't a cafe when I moved here.
There's no other wrongness on that page.
Okay,
So on page 8.
We're just chatting, aren't we?
Got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't know what that meant, so. Encourage adjacent commercial uses to share parking and provide cross access.
that means that you have enough, you don't have a barrier. You don't have a, yeah, you have, like, the parking lot comes up here on this property, and you have to put a little stop, you create an access. And generally, that requires property owners to enter into a joint access agreement.
Great.
Okay, so that's what that
Yeah, that's been there for a while.
Right. Page. Now we're all the way down to. Timeline.
Yeah, because the way it's, I always put it sort of beginning page, and on that one, it's still, we're.
We should probably change.
You have a different formatting, a little bit.
What page are you turning
Well, I think it's 8. I don't know, it's on page 10, if you look at
Okay.
the page numbers.
to? Page 10.
It's a housing element. So that's the thing with the Word document, when you share it, each system has its own formatting, and so it's in your path, and not what I sent it.
So that, but you paginated the pages, so that
Yeah.
allows us to do
But-
business.
But that does, no, it doesn't.
Does it?
It's not mine, it's following, I know where you're at, but the numbering is a little bit different.
When I say page 10, I'm saying, because it says page 10 right there.
Yeah, that's in the PDF.
Yes.
So mine says 16, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it says 16.
Uh-oh.
Because the comments come in a bit.
Oh.
Yeah, not the word.
That's what he said.
Well, right here.
No,
It's
it's
just
not.
So in the housing movement, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the first page, I don't see any comments. So we went over that.
What?
Pretty good.
I added I did add that paragraph, and after talking with Cody in our office, because there was some mention in.
Which paragraph?
In the introduction, the last
The second
paragraph,
one?
the last one there.
Which one?
It's all red, it's all red.
The whole red paragraph?
Because of housing affordability, there was some discussion in the previous document about that. So Virgin does qualify, they are on the list of low and moderate income communities. So it does qualify. There's a question, I think, in one of the comments. Do we even have this here? And it does, which means that 51% of the population here have an income below 80% of the area median income. So people in the community are eligible to seek help,
To buy things.
to do improvements or whatever, how assistance programs.
Windows,
Right.
so people who are
If they're,
that
if they're in that,
51%.
if they're in that, income threshold, then they can qualify for this.
Comment? Yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm on page 8,
Uh-huh,
right, top of page 8, as numbered on your favor.
8, okay, yeah. Okay.
Okay, it says while the town will encourage the use of existing land, zone commercial, the new village commercial neighborhood overlay may result in additional. Can we take village commercial and neighborhood overlay since we're not sure of the language?
Yeah,
put that other language,
yeah.
So we're just generalizing it.
Okay. Yeah, so,
Sounds good.
Yeah, we got that. And so back onto page 10. Okay, so that's something we need to communicate to the council and then do some education.
about the, low income, yeah,
Generally, that is, but that's not the town necessarily that benefits, it's the individual.
right,
But we could have that information board.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting.
good people do that. Or have a link on our town website, you know?
Something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay.
So under the housing element or their comments,
Right.
And then the other one-
On the next page, page 11.
was the heading under goals, above goals.
Okay, outcomes. Beginning with adequate identification of provided services. Oh, that's a lead on.
Yeah, just because survey results were pretty clear that people don't want multifamily housing bigger than two-family homes.
And you'll
So I
see
just
that-
thought a variety of types might be a little too wide sounding, but you know.
Well, I can spell it out specifically, that I looked again at the town survey, and it was single family first, and it was ADUs that were up there, and there's cluster homes were up there, and then duplexes were there, but not very high.
And there's also some cottage.
That's
That's
a
what
cluster.
the cluster, yeah.
So I think,
All right, then,
I didn't,
looking through, but I'll make sure that that's in there.
good. And then the next one, the lead on.
oh, I guess. Oh, I guess I'm thinking we're gonna have yet another general plan before we have our sewer. So, I don't know, I could be wrong.
Last 10 years.
Are we, the question in my mind is, are we confined to just talking about duplexes when it comes to multiple
That's,
housing because of sewer and stuff?
because of sewer, but also because of public desire.
You sure?
You are not beholden to the town surveillance. I try to make that clear all along.
Hmm.
So you as town leaders, you can see what's best for your town, so that you get that input. But you have to make the hard decision, so it's up to you what you include.
We could surely, I mean, we could all the time in the world, write, have ordinances that would, anticipate the sewer coming in and cover all those larger, denser uses, but
I know you feel strongly about, hey, I wanna make sure that, currently, we, are allowing only for what can, pass codes for sewer. And I don't know how far down the road we are, but I think we all know there's a huge need for more affordable housing everywhere in the country. And my thoughts are, how do we want to encourage development? Do we want our town to kind of be like it is? Do we want our town to be more diverse and allow for multiple housing when it's possible with sewer? Do we have a desire we want to encourage growth? And what kind of growth is that? I think when it comes to housing, I just see such little availability because of sewer. We've got nice developments like Rio and their gardens. Rio de Sierra Bella, which hasn't developed for various reasons, but could. And we really, when we have the little, like what Kevin Stout tried to do, all of a sudden it's sold quick and everybody built something on it. There's a huge need, obviously, for affordable land and affordable housing. When do we get there? Do we, like you say, do we have to have a whole new master plan that comes into play with having sewer? Or do we plan for that now or talk about that?
the reason we can't talk about it, but it's just a matter of, time, I guess.
Well, and desire. There is
Yeah,
desire
desire.
for high density, super high dense stuff.
Well, you mean like 3-story apartment buildings or 2-story apartment buildings?
Or 30 condominiums in a block.
Right, when you say there's no desire, why
But there
are
is
you
a
getting that from?
But there is a desire for a place like Old Home Acres. There is a desire for
What's
that.
old home acres?
That's Kevin Stout's subdivision by the,
Okay,
But those are not
Those were
affordable
assets.
houses.
they were when they were put there.
The land was
The land.
Right, exactly. That's all we can do as a town is make the land affordable.
If this helps,
We can't control construction costs.
if this helps, so generally, the places that need apartments are places where there's a lot of employment available and a lot of services. And I don't think you meet that definition. Where you have is what you just described, is where someone in a town like St. George or Hurricane or Bergen can come out and go, I want to build my lot here, and then they sell their home, which is smaller and more affordable for someone there. And that's kind of the chain reaction, and that chain reaction hasn't been happening for the last 20 years very well.
But because people,
Because of interest rates and
so
just.
you have a lot of really old people living in really big houses.
Right,
Yeah,
or you have families that have outgrown a house that want an extra bedroom or two, but because they have a 1% mortgage rate, they're not moving.
right.
But if they could afford to move, they would. So, from my perspective as a planner, your infrastructure stuff doesn't lend itself to, the people that need those kind of services. But you are the pressure valve relief for the people that want to get out of those places, that can afford to get out of those places, to open up their homes or their apartment that they've been living in, and now they're able to get into a small home that they, you know. So that's, if that helps you at all, or makes, maybe muddies the water, I think when there's the perceived perception that, well, we need to build, you know, fourplexes or a bunch of condos or whatever, I don't know if that's really, something that you need to worry too much about.
Because we can't do anything about it. Is that what you're saying?
Right, you don't have the grocery stores, you don't have the medical services, you don't have the employment base. Because people that can barely afford an apartment, generally they're fly on transit, they walk, they bike to work. None of those things are available here easily, because they're, when you're trying to right there.
Oh.
Good.
Oh,
See my
nice.
spider?
I read. Probably on my list.
So I like how that conversation completely bypassed my point and went straight to condos and fourplexes.
What was your, I'd like to rehear.
Affordable land.
Old home acres. That's the kind of housing that we need to work on developing.
But even Kevin said to make some mistakes there,
Right, he did make, you know what he said his mistakes were?
not having a HOA.
His mistake was not setting up rules to limit the house size.
Right.
That's all he said. That's the only mistake he said he made. That has nothing, what I'm saying is,
CCNRs.
both home acres. That's what we have to set up the community to be able to offer. Now, if we want to offer apartments and stuff, that needs to be in conjunction with businesses. Now, I agree with your assessment, but you're missing a key point. We do have the opportunity for apartments because of Springdale, because Springdale does not have it. So, is there a place for apartments here with businesses? Yes, and they will be filled by the Springdale market. And I'm not pushing for that, right? I'm pushing for whole home acres.
And I think that until we do have sewer, that we should encourage businesses who come in, who are actually putting in those big septic systems, to make sure that those businesses include housing for their employees, at least some. And, yeah, I think that that's something we can do right away.
If we go back to the general plan, though, if you go back to that paragraph you guys were talking about, oh, sorry, my computer kicked off.
They kicked you out.
No, I just want to see. So on there, where you're talking about this, and just to simplify this, we're on page,
What's the heading you're under? Is it right above? the-
we're on page 10. And it's that blue, right above current conditions. So if you're worried about that, where it says, some residents of Virgin may have to express support to provide areas of greater variety of housing to meet needs in the community. I think you could end that sentence right there and remove the rest of that. That would leave it open to, what the town needs to do, even if we had sewer. So I think you could,
I don't see any.
So what are we getting rid of?
it would say including accessory dwelling units, cluster cottage, right above current conditions. On page 10,
United States.
Oh,
including accessory dwelling units, cluster cottage style homes and duplexes. We could just remove that and just leave the first part of that sentence.
Just in the other paragraph. The residents of Virgin has expressed support. Provide areas for greater than.
Not even in here, so
Needs the needs of the community. What's this paragraph right here?
yeah, that,
We just like that, this law.
yeah, just strike that and step.
That's what I'm saying.
oh, yeah.
Mine is showing, see, mine is showing.
It's crazy.
It doesn't just show up in ours.
It's gotta be there, it's the same document.
Top of the house. Section. That's the page that's, oh, it's not showing up in yours.
It shows up in comments on hers, I think.
This is it. this paragraph that,
Okay, now I know that the blue is what you've added.
Yeah. Okay, that's weird.
yeah.
It's instead of this. But this is, why is it on his? What? And we're in the same folder.
It was there.
Did I accidentally?
You have it on,
It's not on yours either.
Ah. This is what you sent me.
the blue.
Oh.
Right above current conditions. It's red on this.
I see.
Yeah, it's right here. This document is page 9, it's that paragraph.
Is there in your current conditions, it's not there. From hers.
On hers,
It's red.
most of it's showing it with red, but that paragraph's not there.
All right, so make a note.
Okay, I have a note on that, take that out. You guys good with that?
Oh, yeah.
The description of the list?
So now let me see, this is all right, that's weird.
Yeah.
Cause I took this from the email you gave, sent me,
Yeah.
and put it on here, and then we did our comments. Okay.
Any other comments?
Not on that page, but on the next page, 11. Or, that's weird.
That's what I'm saying is when, if it was a PDF, it would lock the page.
That's true.
All format,
That's very,
but with this, it doesn't.
okay, so, okay. Comment and future infrastructure needs should be addressed. Agencies
Right about goals.
typically are directed toward housing developments that assist low and moderate income families and senior citizens households. You said need to clarify. And how would we do that?
Or on this part.
Oh. We are, we're in goals and policies.
Oh, goals and policies.
And the first goal,
Okay.
but you have them above that, wait. We already looked at it.
We already looked at it.
Okay, and I suspect you have, okay. All right, so now we're going to goals, okay.
So it's in the first goal, it's the second bullet, right?
Yeah, at the last, or right at the end of that, you wanted to clarify?
So, yeah, let's see, existing construction. First housing development is that assist low moderate income housing. My question is, so is the town seeking to assist them or provide a way for them to,
You're not assisting.
the town doesn't want to say, we are going to assist with this.
The agency is restricted towards housing development.
Yeah, maybe not agencies.
This future should be addressed. Connection with agencies which specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's, that was my question. When you read the whole thing, it's like, okay, I think you're trying to say that, you won't, yeah, I mean, the goal is to still.
Well, this is from the previous. Yeah, right.
Right, so the goal is, I took out providing affordable housing because you don't want to provide affordable housing to that. But facilitate
At this
housing
time.
affordability.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's one thing, that the town, the role of the town is not to buy housing.
Right.
But you're in an enormously big town.
But we could instead change this. And make it like existing future infrastructure needs should be assessed and planned for. Be directed towards future. like we're talking about when sewer storage in the future.
Yeah,
Like a future goal,
uh-huh.
once,
I mean, our target stretch of time, like, as we work on this is what?
It doesn't matter,
10 years.
this is the future, so it might not be realized when this is visited again, and that's why
but
some
it's
things
still a
are
plan.
being carried over from us.
Yeah. So this is. I think by just redoing this whole thing was something with what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
As we
just,
assess our infrastructure and add on to our infrastructure, we
So,
have to keep those things in mind. Especially when sewer comes and
yeah,
all the lots then, right?
and,
I think that,
okay,
it's like,
Does that make sense?
I have an idea now. So,
right,
It kind of captures what everybody was
it's
kind of mentioning.
funny with how sort of prickly the survey results sounded about affordable housing. I think that if we were to figure out a good place for it, I think that people would be all right. It's just like, I think, so many times there are no plans and things end up in a place that is not ideal. And if we had an idea, that's why I want future zoning, future land use.
So that's another way to go about that is the clustering idea.
Yeah,
Where you balance the density with open space.
and, yes. And, you know, clustering small homes with a fancy schmancy septic system, you could do quite a bit, make it pretty affordable.
They're not that expensive.
The less,
No, they're not that expensive.
what are
package plans.
So I'm doing a project out in Bangor where we have to reduce it. And we're putting in 12 cabins, 12 one-bedroom cabins, and the total price for the sewer for all 12 is $120,000.
oh, so among 4 homes, quarter acres, I just recalled my conversation with Kevin Stout. Property he has on that side, kind of off the property. He was thinking of no smaller than third or quarter acre. That might be what we done, and get there earlier.
Karen, the 120,000 is infrastructure.
And that's the entire sewer system
Septic.
for 12 one-bedroom cabins.
Which probably would be the equivalent to about 4 homes, 4 homes. What's the area with the cabin? It's a quarter thing.
It'd be a quarter ERA.
Yeah, so it'd be about the same as 4 homes.
And we're also doing a test system for, in conjunction with the Southwest Department of Public Health, and if that system works, it'll even be less expensive, if that experimental test system provides the nitrate reduction that the engineers say will. And they're gonna take that off.
I
that
think there
system.
would be more support in the town for something like that, if we could limit home size. Can we do that?
No,
No.
you can limit,
Wait a minute, that's the kind of,
You can limit lots, you can designate lot sizes, a maximum lot size. And with setbacks, and if you, the way you do get to that is setbacks, height limit, lot size.
you can limit home size
Yeah,
on the top end, you cannot,
it can't be below a certain,
you can't do anything smaller than 1,000.
Correct.
You can't say you
Right.
have to have at least 2,000.
but we can say have at least 2,000 if you're on it,
No.
CCNR.
CCNRs can.
Yeah,
Towns can't.
that's the way, yeah, so that's the way to do it, is it would have to be a CCNR. I mean, that's, if I remember my conversation correctly with him, that's what he was talking about. I mean, we hated them.
If you look at the second paragraph, right there on page 11. So we can.
Where does it start?
It says new development. New development should be reasonably complementary to existing structures in both scale and architecture, so we can't require specific architecture for homes. The state doesn't allow us to do
Unless you
that.
got a CCNR.
The state doesn't allow the town to do that,
Correct.
so the architecture needs to be scratched. We can require commercial buildings, but not,
True, right.
but not for residential home. So the architecture needs to be scratched. I would have made a comment, but mine won't let me make comments.
You have to send me over here. Page 11.
I'm wondering if you,
Yeah.
not, it's like that.
On this,
It's under the construction and maintenance of.
Yeah.
Second page.
That page, that we're looking at.
Yeah, well, there's
It's
probably,
right.
probably not using the full version of.
Last word.
So they restrict my usage.
No, it's not there.
Wait a minute.
And it's the second last bullet. So new development, goal point. That is here.
Yeah, I don't.
I had that question when I.
This is from the previous plan,
It was.
and is it something that you want to have to leave that for? Because that's
You-
basically they're saying scale, we could just say scale.
Yes, it's scale,
Just scale.
The next bullet is brand new, exploring benefits, drawbacks of establishing design standards in the development of the code. So,
That was a question, so that.
that's kind of pretty much the same thing the last one was said, isn't it? Or what would be the difference?
Design standards are,
Colors.
yeah, they're generally more tied to commercial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is in the housing.
It's not working. It's working.
I just. I don't know. I won't walk it off your arm, yeah. I won't walk it off.
oh no. That's working. I think it was this early last week, when we get on, so I can. Okay, it started early last week, yeah. Okay.
That section.
But
I don't see any more.
you were able to get your email going, right?
Yeah, yeah, I just brought them today.
So, and then I have, before you leave, I have a question for you about, LinkedIn or something you posted.
I think it's comments on page 14.
I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Can't say, or you can leave
What
it,
section?
Or which is under goals walk.
Yeah, but I'll show it to you.
I don't know.
It probably
Yeah.
doesn't show up, it's just something like this is still there.
Oh, I just wondered if it makes sense to call out any specific place.
We're on 13.
14,
I'm just on this page 13.
oh,
I'm just talking, we skipped all the way down there. We really went over transportation a lot, so there's not.
So what was your question?
just if, all right, I was going to mention that Pottsville Road is very narrow and it's pretty scary. And there's absolutely no place to walk below a certain point, so it's super dangerous for,
And this one was in response to that,
oh,
but I thought that you might not want to live Pocketville Road, there's other places.
I mean, such as, but yeah,
Oh, I think we had such as.
okay.
And Karen, does that same bullet? This is where we would put your comment earlier about paths. New Jersey River.
Well, this is in housing, isn't it? Or,
Now, we're in transportation now.
I don't know what page you're on.
This document is page 13, it's under the transportation, in the goals section.
Goal as the goal,
We're under walkability,
yeah,
walkable and friendly.
would you like us to add, for both commercial, highway, resort, and residential area?
It doesn't matter to me. We can,
What's the question?
So the walkable neighborhoods for both commercial and residential areas, I was wondering, should we add highway resort?
Well, Harbor Resort is a commercial area.
Okay, so it's like the umbrella,
Yeah.
okay. So it's implied,
It's not calling out any specific category,
okay,
just to use.
okay. And then economic. Um, My comment on desired outcome.
Okay.
Here's one, benefit from visitors. I am suggesting meet the needs of visitors to the area, okay, myself. Actually, it's not either, but it's kind of like saying benefit to visitors and residents
Now,
at the same time. And it, honestly, I know exactly what I wanted to say,
which, now we're.
meet the needs of visitors to the area. And at the same time, meet the needs of bringing benefits to residents. So like, those funds that we get from the visitors
Right,
should be all benefiting and benefit the residents.
right.
So it's not just the goal,
So.
how we're gonna benefit from it.
Right, so you want, this is the economic, you want it also listed in like infrastructure? Because that's part of where the benefit can go, infrastructure and that's.
I don't know, I just was wondering, and Cameron, what you thought?
well, I'm way back on board. You guys jumped ahead of me. I apologize, I'm not keeping up very well.
What?
So, I'm on desired outcome, Chiefs Bridge Road improvement.
Transportation.
Yeah, I don't know what it means that says work closely with the county to ensure the town's needs and concerns are met as they work to improve Chiefs Bridge Road. I don't know what, I don't know what that and concerns is.
Where is this?
Chiefs Bridge Road improvement,
Oh,
desired outcomes. So I'm not sure what the
Oh.
Like- not sure what that
Oh, I see.
means.
I was kind of leaving it open so that as they come in with plans, if there's any concerns the town has, it should say, let's work with the county to address. them.
I think
That
there are, well, we are trying to work
makes
with
it
speed,
more clear.
camping.
That's fine.
Speed, also bike trail, because that was supposed to be part of the plan, and they haven't done anything with that so far, right? Well,
Yeah,
there's such a huge recreation attraction all along that.
There's an
road.
issue with that, and it's, well, there's the bridge. And, who actually owns the old bridge?
I think if we go on down, I guess concerns is fine, and I'm just gonna be honest, people will be mad at me, but I saw a list of things that a community put out about Chief Bridge Road, and some of the stuff on there was ridiculous.
Like what?
Like they wanted their backyards landscaped for them, so they didn't have to see the road. So
Well,
I just wanna make sure that we're not encouraging ridiculousness.
No, they were talking about how are you going to, because the speed limit is 25, there's like no enforcement, so some residents were asking once you get over the bridge to have speed bumps.
That's fine, we can work with them on all that, but
I'd not heard that.
there was a whole document about, we want trees planted,
Well,
we want
trees.
a bunch of stuff,
But
yeah.
there's also the, something we wanted to do on Highway 9 as well. And that is streetscape, so maybe, I don't know which one they're talking about. If it's on my own private property, that's not done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But, that's fine.
But I would be for streetscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that on the shuttle system, I think a key thing on the shuttle system, so towards the bottom, it says additionally that the shuttle creates opportunities for visitors who stay in Virgin and spend their dollars. It also creates opportunity to reduce traffic, and so I think that should be added to there.
That's a good point.
I think additional stops could increase the number of residents using the system as well as the number of visitors. And reduce traffic.
And reduce the desired
Bottom of page
outcomes,
13.
desired outcomes.
Bottom of page
Shuttle
13,
system.
the very last.
So, at the end of the sentence, it says spend the dollars, or.
Your response is fine, I just think that noting that it will reduce traffic.
Additional stops could increase the number of residents using the system as well as the number of visitors visiting the town and also reduce traffic, something like that, right?
Well, reduce traffic.
Yeah, traffic calm. All right, so are we back to, is that the last one? No, economic, we're back to economic. Are you on economic now?
I think I'm where your cursor is.
All right, so desired outcomes, did we do that one? That one, we did that one. Okay, so we're back to my puzzling question. You understand what I'm trying to say?
where is
And
this?
is that appropriate? It says, goal, benefit from area visitors, benefit from visitors to the area by promoting commercial development. Where forward.
And then we'll.
As a means to provide services for residents.
So this says 74 acres of vacant land zone commercial.
There is
Acres
two.
is 64.
Benefit from. So, okay, Cameron noticed that in one section it says 74 acres of undeveloped commercial, and another it says 64. I know you had found a different number.
What I did was, if you look, where I struck through, I had it in two different sections, and
And
I
just
thought,
combined it,
this is convoluted, so I just combined it into one.
so it's higher resource.
So it's combined 64.46, 9.81,
Of higher resource.
and this zone commercial, just.
That's fine, I was just making sure.
So and then I just expanded the boundary, rather than saying, this pocket and this pocket.
Okay,
I just thought it was convoluted, that's it, right?
okay, now it makes sense.
And you guys kind of responded that way when I read it to you.
Yeah. Oh, and I have one last comment, the very last, encourage new families to move to Virgin. With the affordable housing options, along with securing the sustainability of long-term residents. I found that funky. How about while maintaining sustainability for long-term residents? So that, or do you need that?
No, that's fine.
I haven't been a comment. The other comment, that I'm confused by these numbers. Oh, then he has a comment about gallons. Water, about what?
In that section,
I don't know where this comment is. Oh, it's way up here. Infrastructure support.
Or that's jumping down into infrastructure.
That's the next section. Okay. There's a lot of sections. Okay, this is the last section. I just said on the current conditions. Should we mention, and to be made of sheriff, fire department service?
Oh, yeah, I can add that in. I mean, that's, yeah.
And we also have waste services,
The park does not have two parts, or the town doesn't have two parts.
just one, just one.
Okay.
And the next one is under the current conditions. One paragraph, across that paragraph, across that paragraph, the next paragraph beginning with the realization. You have a comment there, what? I see little support for this. Realization. Okay. I see your comment. Sure, not mine. I see little support for this, could we say plans for rather than provide? No, that comment is still that.
So realization, that paragraph,
Uh-huh.
you just added, you wrote a note, add the word of at the top.
I use this one, not, there we go.
My comment is for the.
Again,
Why is that in the current conditions? Why is that whole paragraph in current conditions?
That's the objectives, the goals and objectives.
The realization of this general fund goals and objectives expressed in commercial and higher density residential, that has nothing to do with current conditions.
well, kind of does.
None of our current conditions have that, we need some more wording in it.
It's just like the lower.
Yeah.
Now, you could say something in there that's like. Current condition would be many of the goals and objectives of the town are hindered by wastewater services. You can put that in there as current conditions, and then that makes sense as current condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Where are you at? Okay, so goal infrastructure support. Here. I think that plan for rather than provide.
I thought no desired outcomes in there. None, is there really no infrastructure that we want to put in here as a desired outcome? Do we not want to have the infrastructure of a fire station or the infrastructure of a larger holding tank or? But, yeah.
We have the larger
Yeah,
town
this is
station.
generally.
Yeah, we're just saying, oh, we'll just do some improvements, maybe. There's no goals,
So what-
So what do you, what goals do you have, fire station?
Fire station.
Yeah.
You're talking,
Streetscape?
they're talking about a law enforcement,
Substation.
substation or office space.
And, or revamp.
So-
I don't know if we put that in our, this is
Is
infrastructure.
that good for presence? Is that- yeah.
And having a town,
That doesn't sound like infrastructure to me.
the town,
Yeah, that's all infrastructure.
that's the police.
Yeah, that's all infrastructure.
Well, it's not
It's
just
a public
infrastructure,
service.
it's a public service. It's
Oh,
infrastructure. Oh, that's transportation.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I expanded it because
Public
the
service,
scope of
Right,
branches.
Yeah,
Sorry.
public services and facilities on this, so
Yeah.
we wanna complete the renovation of the new town hall and repurpose um. The old,
Community center.
yeah, yeah. There's a creative community center there around, as well as a town hall
And a welcome center,
Welcome center,
so we may as well add that.
and there's also, we might want to add something about, the history museum, or local history, some kind of local history, I don't know where that would be housed.
Here,
And probably in the.
Yeah.
or the other, yeah, or a little, you know.
And then next steps. Oh, I might have a question for you, Kevin, is,
So, well, let me just, were you okay with the water? That was the last one.
oh,
We've gone over it before.
The water conservancy element, I haven't read it all, but it needs to match, because we've now signed on with the point agreement, so it needs to match. It needs to match what the water district requires us to do,
Okay.
which there are specific requirements for the water
Okay,
district.
and I'll talk to that, and
that'd be great. And I feel really stupid asking this question. But, our most recent study says that per household, per day usage is 237 gallons. And this says our goal after many years is per capita 237.
that is the Utah Division of Water Resources.
Okay, so doesn't that mean we're way beyond the goal already?
So, yeah, it's just laying out, you're doing good.
I think that I think the water district has, a goal as well.
Okay, and I'll get that from them, man.
So we're doing really well.
So, yeah,
Then you're raising the question, we need to communicate survey results to our public. What do you suggest, how do you suggest that is?
It's up to you, how you would like to do it. I mean, there's that summary document. And I know that people have asked to see that. I'm not going to give it to them because it's not my place. It's your document.
That's
I
what
just
I'm
type it.
saying.
that should just be allowed to be released,
Yeah, she just.
whether that goes out with the town newsletter.
Website, newsletter,
Yeah, that should just be released.
yeah, okay.
I don't think we need to release it more than that.
Do you wanna put a letter of introduction on them, or? Like, the info?
You know what you want to do. I would just consult, make sure that town leader, everyone's on board.
Yeah, check with the town,
That's
council, see how they wanna send that out.
Yeah.
Get a timeline,
Okay,
it should be before this.
Yeah, I don't have any, I'm not going to practical. I'm the type of trying to keep it.
Okay. I will follow up on that. You done? With that? Fair to say that.
Okay.
I have half an hour.
Thanks, Kevin.
I can get you
In the other direction for a while.
Right. So it's not,
Is this your phone?
Kevin?
Oh, yes, that is, thank you. I would have gotten that to my car and gotten it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Kevin.
Thanks.
Right. So. All right, so. We didn't have a lot of, there's not a lot to discuss. We must discuss the first three. We had a discussion while Larry was here, and because we had the time to do so at our public hearing regular meeting on living work drafts, so we can touch on that. But the item 2, 3, 4, and we will get to, if we have time to get to 5, we will get to 5. Item 3 and 4. And let me see if I have the live work, the amended live work, make sure it's on it that way. There's a document in our folder, it's chapter 8, you can see they have a little start, little lines coming out. The village overlay and the old town zone. Those are the 4 things. But we have 5 things.
What about live work, where is it? So, Larry and I have,
Live work is the first document at 411. Live work,
oh,
on chapter 8, village overlays, old town zone. That is what is going up for public hearing. And we'll make sure the title of live work has the word amended in it. Okay? The others are all first time around. The ones we had public hearing on, that we really need to discuss so we can vote on them in May are the low impact conditional use permits, the ordinance prohibiting commercial or public parking in residential and agricultural zones, and an ordinance amending Title 16 of the Virgin Land Use Code. Item number 2 under just discussion, revised 2-family dwelling ordinance. That is not active right now.
it is incorporated into the chapter 8,
Okay,
is the standards for the, and then the place that it would go, the overlay as recommended by Riker is in the village overlay. So,
the downtown zone?
no, neighborhood village overlay.
Okay, so the names have changed since they
Oh.
published this, so we'll have to. So the village overlay zone,
In SharePoint, that's correct.
SharePoint, okay, okay. All right, so that's. So it's really important that, before we are at our public hearing in May, that we review those, okay? And reach out with any questions.
We didn't get much comment, right?
We got, almost no comment at the last public hearing, so the ordinance amending chapter 16. I think we were the lead on that, and that came about as a result of some discussions between you and Karen, I believe.
Which one?
Chapter 16 conditions and conditional uses.
No.
The first item, low impact conditional use permits.
I don't know, it's been floating around in here for a long time.
Okay, so if you could open up that, have you had a chance to look at it?
There were no public comments on that, but we need to discuss them, I guess, but, there were comments on the parking ordinance, and that was the only thing, right?
Yeah, but I just wondered if commissioners had comments
Right.
about this ordinance.
Okay. And have you had a chance to look at this?
No.
Do you want me to give more copies?
Yeah, just,
So
No, I don't, that's.
can you maybe just give us an overview, Lee, of a low impact city?
Okay, the idea. Actually, okay, another part of it.
It's
Here it is.
starting on line 100.
Okay, what this does is it creates a lower, what I'm calling low impact CUP, that does not, okay, it may be allowed if the P and Z finds that, except in the case of a live work unit, no excavation of land, construction of buildings, or substantial improvements to plumbing or electrical systems is intended. The use required is determined not to produce any nuisance for existing or potential neighboring areas. Use will not create substantial additional traffic for street parking, occupancy, or outdoor storage of materials, tools, or equipment. Use will not create additional noise, require additional outdoor lighting, or create off-site disruption of use shed, and implementation of the use in combination with all other uses on the subject property will not cause a greater septic or water supply impact than 1 ERC per acre. Now, this is the way it was written. I have now, after talking about this many times with lots of you guys, I don't use the term 1 ERU or 1 ERC per acre anymore, because as I've been, put on notice, what matters isn't, the use so much as what output is gonna come out of whatever system they're using. So, in the chapter 8 changes, I've clarified that. And so this is kind of shorthand for what it says now in chapter 8 for wastewater.
So do you need to update this language before we post it?
I can do that, yeah, because this was just the first hearing and it's gonna have another hearing anyway, right? So the good thing about this, another thing that I've kind of rethought is that if there is if there's construction required, but it's a commercial building permit, then that should also be okay to, not just for live work, but for any use that requires a commercial building permit. Because that's quite a rigorous process that they have to go through. But yeah, so where it says, except in the case of a live work unit, that number 1 maybe should just go away. So, and the good thing about going this route is the low impact CUP doesn't require a public hearing or a DRC review. And all they have to do is what's written here: contact info, written narrative of the use, description of the current use, if applicable, number of employees, frequency of deliveries and or customer visits, list of any hazardous materials, and whatever other information requested by the zoning administrator or planning and zoning commission for evaluation. And then the planning commission can approve, deny, approve with conditions, or find that the application doesn't qualify as low impact and send them through for a standard CUP, which is much more burdensome. So, I don't know, it's up for whatever your comments are. The other thing this ordinance does, you don't have your blurb handy, do you, Darlene?
I did.
The tricky thing, the thing that's gonna be confidential, the thing that is going to create some heartburn can be left out, but it changes all commercial uses to conditional uses. That is kind of extreme, I think, but I think it's important that we go through and make sure that all uses that potentially could create a nuisance or a safety problem or whatever, have standards in the ordinance, and once they do, make them permitted, but unless they need to be whatever the use is, if we need to memorialize it in perpetuity. So for instance, it's a good idea, as Riker says, to make the two-family house use conditional, because then it will always be a long-term, 2 long-term rentals. Okay. Maybe this is better.
See if you missed anything.
This ordinance makes a number of changes to chapter 16. including the addition of low impact. Currently, if an applicant simply wishes to change from one use to another, the rules would require them to go through a public hearing and a DRC approval. For changes that have little or no impact on the community. This ordinance provides for lower impact uses to be approved by a single non planning commission. CUP is allowed to have greater enforcement options over uses that require compliance with specific standards. They also attach the land and therefore are a permanent record of those standards that will continue through changes in ownership. Permitted uses are more difficult to hold to town standards, and compliance with standards or changes in use may not survive changes in ownership. However, when specific standards for given use are sufficiently covered in the ordinance, many lower impact uses can be safely listed as permitted. This ordinance, if adopted as is, makes all commercial uses conditional as they once were. This may be controversial, so the following points are important. The low impact, CUP makes the process extremely simple for many applications. Any of these conditional uses may be listed as permitted as the town adopts specific standards for the use. And since the grant of conditional use is an administrative decision, public input may not be a factor in that decision. So the planning commission can't deny an application unless some aspect, such as the specific location, makes compliance with town standards impossible, which is a very unlikely circumstance. So that's the deal. I'm sure you guys want comments. But look through it. And,
So take my little line from problem that you see and what we're trying to solve, how we're trying to solve it with this, what exists that we need to do this, and help me simply understand how we're doing that.
okay,
And so what is it,
so right
how
now,
and why?
if you need a conditional use permit for something,
I need an example
okay, let's say you want to, build a two-family home. We have that as a conditional use right now, so that or at least in the upcoming
of, what
ordinances,
is
so
the
far.
line, is it two?
A duplex.
A duplex, oh, I mean, to me, a duplex, but I grew up back east, a duplex is one on top of the other. But I guess that's not how most people think that, is that true?
I think so, but I can see it different way too.
Anyway, okay, say you want that, we wanna make sure that it has a similar impact to a single family dwelling, so it's a conditional use, it will require a conditional use permit. Now, before, it would require that you go to the DRC, that you, have a public hearing, and that you have to go to various meetings in order to get your permit. This would get rid of everything except one visit to the planning commission. And, once you finish that, you would have a permit for a two-family home that would be engraved on the lot, so that somebody can't come in later and make vacation rentals out of it. It's going to always be a long-term two-family dwelling. That's the main idea.
Thank you.
You got it. If that
I wish we could write it next time.
Chairman?
Okay, so I apologize, it won't let me open this Word document to read through it. It's fine,
Your email's working?
yeah, it's working fine. It's something to do with opening Word and like this computer.
Okay,
Um,
let me email these to.
it's fine, it's not gonna help the email, it's the format, it's Word that I'm having a problem with, not the file. It's Word.
So if I put it as a PDF and SharePoint, would it be able to?
Maybe,
Okay, try that.
but. So first of all, your phrasing of this, determined to not cause a nuisance. If you're the neighbor of something that you don't want, it's going to be a nuisance, so. I don't think that can be listed as one of the requirements for this simplified conditional use permit. And why are we focused on making another path for a conditional use permit instead of just writing down standards?
It's faster, and again, as we've discussed before, it makes a permanent record that in change of ownership will continue on to the, in perpetuity. So, and it's easier to enforce.
None of, that is just not the way that the towns operate. So you're saying this like it's fact. But you're saying, oh, it's easier to enforce, it's easier to keep it. But that's not the way thousands, millions of towns operate. Because most towns have permitted uses. You know what you can do, and you just go in and you get your permit. And you do it, and you follow the rules. And then you have a code enforcement officer, like we have now, go and make sure that those rules are enforced.
Well, I mean, I don't agree that other towns don't have conditional uses.
I didn't say they didn't have them. They're not the primary, we're talking about making every use conditional. That's not the way other towns operate.
Isn't that how it works here in,
It's how it worked in Virgin, when Virgin had nothing. And we did that because we had nothing. We had one clerk, and we had one part-time town maintenance person. And that's it. And that's why we had everything as conditional use. Now we have staff.
Well, I mean, I agree that not every use should be conditional, or needs to be. But I think we need to take the time then to go through it, and I don't see why not make this change that would ease the whole process for people who, in the meantime, want to try and use.
I have no problem with making an easy process for certain conditional uses. That's fine, whatever. I think that the way the requirements and stuff is outlined in your ordinance need reworking, because I think they're too subjective. But then you said, we're gonna go and we're gonna make every use conditional. That is something I cannot support.
I'm not surprised, and it's not my favorite approach either. I just think
Then why are you proposing it?
because it would at least make an easy path for some things that we're working on now that we're going to need to make conditional according to experts like Brecker. And yeah, it will encourage us to go through and make our list.
I think it gives us a way, to move towards just having standards. This is like a permanent thing. It takes a while to write good standards. And so this allows some oversight as that process goes on, and then it can be moved. Once the standards are in the code, that it can be moved, out of that.
That is what I was suggesting.
So first of all, that statement presupposes that we don't have standards written.
Right, and that's
And
why
we do have standards written
for some things.
for most all of the things. Because, and if there isn't standards written for that thing, and it's listed on permitted in a certain zone, it's because it was determined that the conditions and the requirements of the zone were sufficient. It didn't need any more supplementary use. So I have no problem if we wanna go through uses and say, hey, let's look at this use, let's look at the code, let's look at what they're required to do, let's look at if there's any additional. And then we say, well, I don't like this, I think we should do more, let's make this one conditional. If we wanna go through them one by one and fight about it, argue about it, I'm good with that. But a blanket, let's just make them all conditional? Come on.
Well, I'm perfectly happy to make a list of which uses are in here that already have standards and, or don't meet standards, like their small retail probably doesn't meet standards other than what's in the zone. Make a list like that, and then the remainder of things, we could move those into conditional until we can write standards for them.
I'm fine with that, if we go down through the uses,
Would
we'll
you?
say,
Okay.
hey, this one, I don't like it, we don't have time to write these standards for it right now, and then we'll argue whether the one we have is sufficient, and then we say, make a determination, okay, we'll put this one conditional, that's fine, but a blanket, just make everything, I just can't support that.
Okay. Do you wanna make a list, or I can?
As
start?
far as I'm concerned, the list is there, it's
Okay.
perfectly acceptable.
All right, then I would.
So,
I'll make it.
you want me to make this, it's, everything that's there is good.
Never mind. And, it's also, when I wrote this, I think I divided it into sections so that if we wanted to approve the low impact CUP process before, without making all the uses conditional, we can do that. So, and I don't think that would create too many problems if we get right on it. If I get right on the list.
The next item had just, during the public hearing, just a few comments, and they were points of clarification. And most of them were answered. Primarily, people were concerned that if we had another, shuttle stop or bus stop in town, would that preclude a small parking lot area? And it wouldn't, because it only relates to commercial or public parking lots in residential and rural residential.
Right.
And stops would be on the highway. And this was done out of comments, from town council members about concern of parking when they're talking about putting the stop, is it the old post office area? It was Misty who was concerned about parking in the neighborhood.
Right.
And that, so that's the purpose of that, and it seems to be supported. Does anybody have any comment on that one?
Yeah, question.
Sure.
So this is a concern about the county bus system, transportation system that's gonna have stops here and people creating parking areas to charge people to park their cars so they can get on and off the bus. And the concern is turning residential into commercial.
Parking lots.
And so, is this just going in and just making parking lots for everybody to use and?
In residential and agricultural zone.
Agriculture. But not commercial and agriculture.
Right.
Okay. And then, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third item, that we need to discuss, that was at the public hearing, and I just wanna verify, where did my summary sheet go? I'll just put it away. This one, there was no comment, we got no email communication or letters on any of the items on the public hearing this time. This is, just to, since we do have open space, existing, it's reinstating that language, so it's easier for, owners and open space to, know what the parameters are on that piece of land. Did I get that right? Okay.
So what's the issue here about open space?
There's nothing, no language about open space, and yet you have land designated as open space. But in Lulu, there's no language about it. And
Yeah, so if you own a piece of property that's zoned that way, and you wanna know what you can or can't do on it, you have to like dig through historic files of the town to know. So it's just the, where's the
Are there pieces of property that are
zone that way, yes,
zoned open space?
yes.
And what can you do in open space?
How many properties are on open space?
I don't know.
One?
What can you do in
I
open space?
think there's one out, no, I think there's a few.
Give me an
So-
example.
recreational hiking, bicycling, and horseback riding, grazing, single-family home are permitted uses. Trails for public recreation, other public recreation facilities.
Excuse me, are you reading what open space means?
I'm reading
Reading
the
the-
uses.
the
What
uses.
uses allowed. Question.
What you can do in an open space? This is private property,
Yes,
and what can somebody do on that private property?
correct.
Eligible to do
Correct.
with approval.
No, permitted,
It's permitted,
permitted is recreational hiking, biking, horseback riding, grazing, single-family home. Conditional, trails for public recreation, other public recreation facilities, utility easement, public use essential facilities. We will need to add prohibited short-term rentals. If you allow
I mean-
single-family houses,
I think what's there, there's no reason that we couldn't change it if we wanted to, but that's what the zone originally read,
yeah.
where it was removed from that ordinance, and
so if I'm in rural residential, I have a lot that's vacant, is that considered open space?
No. There's an acreage requirement.
so, no, this is just stuff that's actually zoned open space.
So there is a zone called open space.
Yes.
That there
There's
used to
no
be,
language
and then it
about that.
disappeared from the ordinance, and so we're putting it back in.
Got lost, guys.
So we have zones, land zone for this use. There's nothing in food about that. There used to
There used
be.
to be a chapter for it.
So if you are that landowner, or let's say you buy a piece from BLM and want to make it into space.
Question.
There's nothing in, there's nothing in Lulu. Or what the limitations are, or what the requirements, size wise are.
So, okay, so if I understand what you're saying, then, open space zone, space zone, open space has no definition of what that means
In Lulu.
in Virgin Uniform Land Use. Okay? Thank you. I'd like to see one of those. Which color?
Dark green.
Also, it's,
Yes, and there are some areas of BLM that may be sold, is currently zoned as open space.
Well, let's worry about what we're gonna zone that one as sold.
But if we have some acreage now as open space, why would you not want to include that chapter that was always there? Why would you want to know the ordinance language of that? What would be the argument for that? Karen?
why don't we just rezone it to rural residential?
Do that with any other zone, just rezone it.
We can. The town did that when they made Highway Resort, they just rezoned swap city area to highway resort.
Why would we do that? Why would we make it?
Why would we haven't, I don't understand the appeal of having the open space zone.
I don't know, space is kind of popular.
But if it's rural residential and you buy it and you wanna keep it open, then you can just keep it open.
But
And
if
it's
you're,
pretty much the exact same uses.
a lot of this is public land that, is,
Right, so when that public land goes up for sale, most likely we're gonna want it to be for homes. Typically,
I don't know,
unless the town buys it, and if the town buys it, then the town.
some that I think the town should buy, but.
Yeah, right, and then the town can do what it wants with it. I don't understand the need for an open space zone.
Well, and I don't see that there would be a downside to having language in our ordinance about it.
Here's the downside. BLM sells a property. That property is next to, a subdivision. It comes out of that sale, there's 40 acres, it's zoned open space now automatically. The buyer of that property didn't just buy 40 acres, most likely, unless it's a conservation group, which then it's fine. But they bought it and maybe the town wants it, most likely it's bought for housing. So now the developer has to come in, they have to do a rezone to that. And now you've got a whole community of pissed off residents that used to have nice desert in their backyard, and now they're gonna have a new subdivision. And they're mad. Because that happens,
Yeah, it does happen,
and so if it's
but the town doesn't have to rezone it.
right, but if it's zoned residential and the town is looking for residents, then there's not that fight, there's not that contention between those homes and the new development that's going in.
I don't think BLM should be rezoned to open space. There's
It's
several areas, not BLM, that are open space. And they need language in our ordinance, just as every other zone does.
No matter whether we rezone it or not, we're gonna need to know what we're rezoning from.
So,
I just don't see a
for
downside.
example, right now, the BLM is reconsidering selling, I don't know how many acres, 40 or 80 acres around the BMX park.
Mhm.
Well, they're going through their process like they did once before. I understand they are talking about it anyway, or actually processing that. So as a person that lives next to that, I certainly have, some questions and maybe some anxieties about how that's going to affect me. But and I assume they're gonna sell it to somebody that wants to develop it. And I'd love to see the city buy it, make it into a recreational park, but,
By the way,
So would I.
ball fields would be nice.
but I don't know the city would be able to do that, and I know the BLM won't give it to them. So my question is, I guess, that you're saying, let's have some conditional uses on open space.
No, I'm just saying the property was zoned that way and the regulations for that zone are gone from the ordinance. I'm just saying, take whatever it was that got removed and put it back in so that,
So
That
can we look
property-
at those ordinances that were
Yes.
taken away?
yes,
And that's what the ordinance
that's what
says.
this is about.
I'm sorry,
That's what's in SharePoint.
Yeah.
that's what they proposed.
And it's in the ordinance.
That's what they proposed, was bringing back, I think it's almost exact same language as what was before. All I'm saying is,
There's no change.
my proposal is just rezone it off. Just rezone it to rural residential and be done with it.
That increases our build out a lot.
But maybe somebody wants to put a golf course there.
Yeah.
Instead of homes.
And what if we have it zoned?
They can come and try and rezone it, right?
They can't do a golf course in open space.
But they can come and ask us to rezone the open space.
Yeah.
If you want to do, if you want a recreational zone, we should have a recreational zone. Not an open space zone.
The thing is, that's how it's already zoned officially, and so even if we are gonna decide and put it to the public, do you wanna change the zoning on all this property? There's no reason not to put this back in the ordinance. You know what I mean? Because it's already in effect. So right now, let's say you bought a piece of 40 acres of the BLM land, you went to auction and you bought it, and you came to the town to say, what can I do on this? And then the town would hand you, would dig through the files to find out what open space zone means, what it used to mean in the chapters. And right now, I mean, if we put it back in the ordinance, then you can just look it up online and everybody would be aware of what it is. Another point,
And are you saying that there's no, restrictions to open space or what you?
oh no, there are,
I just read them to you.
she read it,
I read them to you.
and
The uses.
The only thing you can do on open space is have trails in a house,
And so what's the purpose, you can already have a single family home, what's the purpose of?
because it's 40 acres, it has to be 40 acres.
Open space has to be in the max.
Minimum of 40 acres.
but if the town wants to acquire it for recreational purposes,
It can't be open space. Because all they do is trails. Because they want to put some trails on
Well,
it.
for some people, what that would be, I mean, horseback riding, very, but desire.
but also, I mean, we
It says
said
other public recreation facilities is a conditional use, so they could
Yeah.
do something other.
anyway, it's,
You're not, I mean. I would not rezone everything. Whole area.
Well, I'd certainly like to learn more information about, what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, and, what the ramifications are to the owners of the land
It's nothing.
currently, and in the future.
The ramifications would be zero. If you have a, say, you're already under this, you just can't go and find it,
right,
because it's not in our code.
this is not a change to
So
anything.
you're really just trying to put a definition in our code.
We're just trying to put language in the code about something that exists, has existed, had language about it, language was removed.
Okay, so let's look at that, Cameron.
And then if they want
What's
to
that
have
mean?
its own change, they can make its own change.
Yeah, and if people wanted it to be different, be more intensive uses, I guess we could consider rezoning it, but right now it's zoned open space, so it would be a rezone.
You just want to put what the definitions of open space back into the record.
Right.
It's a very short
It's,
chapter.
yeah.
All right. Well,
Maybe we'll
could you
decide to
give me a
move on.
list of that?
It's an ordinance,
It's already in there.
it's in the SharePoint,
And if you go to the packet from the public hearing on the town website,
Okay,
you can find it there.
one of you will do that.
yes.
Exhausted my efforts on that.
Sorry, it's so confusing.
Okay, so that is the last
I just
item
think
that
it breaks the time without this. And I apologize. If I actually might, I'm attacking your motives or something, but I probably am. I just want to make sure I understand.
So if you own a type of land, wouldn't you like a part of the code to address that type of land, when every other land is covered, but not this one? I mean, if you talk about motive, why are you there?
Yeah, I would want to know if I own it, what the, code for that land is.
That's all this
What can
does.
be done, which I assume in the past was grazing.
Well, it's several things, you can read it.
So yeah, I want to know that.
We're not changing anything to open space. Yeah, it's just not making a change at all, status quo, but it's there.
Thank you.
And, I mean, it's a good time to think about what
Oh, yeah.
the town would like to see on that land,
Oh, yeah.
because there's no reason we can't A, amend the open space zone, or B, rezone it to a different kind of use, but right now, it is what it is.
So it is 7:43. We've kind of discussed, the live work draft, we will be voting on. And we discussed it at the end of our last meeting. That was a collaborative effort between Larry and Lee Ballard, and they kind of combined their two together. And that is in SharePoint. I added it as a PDF as well. Hope you, let me know if you can open that, okay? Larry's read it. He made a few suggestions to Lee at the meeting, and they, collaborated again. And, this will be the second public hearing on the live work ordinance, so we will also be voting on that.
Next time.
Next time. Okay, so it's gonna have the amended, clean, amended live work ordinance. All right? And then the three that we just discussed will be up for public hearing. Crystal, did you get that? I'll send it all.
On two-family dwelling ordinance, will we vote on that in May?
On the web?
Two-family dwelling ordinance?
No, there is a public hearing on revisions to chapter 8, which is in. I put it in the folder. That has to go up for a public hearing in May. We will discuss it at May's work meeting and vote on it in June. As well as the village overlay ordinance.
Yeah, the two-family has turned into two ordinances, sort of, just the use is in the chapter 8.
So it's really important, if you have any trouble accessing these, please let me know, and if I have to print them out and drive them over to your house, I'll do it, okay? But those ones that are up for public hearing, let's make sure we, preview those prior to the public hearing, so we can have our discussion the next week on those. Are you able to open PDFs?
Yeah,
Okay, note to self. It says, can you make comments in PDFs? though?
I don't know, I haven't tried.
What?
Okay, like, can I make a comment real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we started out with a specific person, the specific request to put duplexes in the commercial zone. Which would do two things. This is my understanding when we're asked to do this. We'll do two things. One, it would limit the availability of duplexes so that they weren't perpetuated throughout town, because that's not a desire of the town, right? Okay. Two, because there are specific properties that are zoned commercial that are not advantageous to other commercial uses, and the owner wanted to do a duplex. Specifically went to the town council and asked for it. Okay, so I got those 2 points correct. Now, we have this village overlay, which would potentially allow for a much broader use, which I'm not opposed to, but a much broader use of duplexes throughout town. But completely does not address the whole other reason why we're looking at this. So now,
Why do you say that?
because now if the person that wants to, now they're gonna have to do a zone change to do their project.
Right.
So now we're putting more work on them. So now we're pushing that, now we're pushing for that commercial to go into another use that the town really doesn't want. Because you make it harder. You're encouraging, you're incentivizing them not to do this project. Right? Is that right? Yes, if you make something harder, people are less likely to do it. Well, can we be honest?
We are.
That wasn't honest.
Was it opinion?
It was opinion, it was. Everyone knows, you make something harder, you make it less likely, right?
I suppose, yes.
Yes.
There are other considerations, just that, other than what the developer finds easy. There's.
I didn't say there weren't other considerations, did I?
Okay.
I'm not arguing about the other considerations. We can talk about those too. I only get upset when people are dishonest or misrepresent stuff.
I don't see what's misrepresented.
I said, you just made it harder for the person, you just made it harder for that person to get what they wanted.
Well, we had it in permitted uses, we sent it by the planner, and he recommended to not do it that way.
And so now we've moved it out of the commercial zone, we've moved it into an overlay zone.
Right. So it could go.
So we went back,
It
so
could
we
go
went
in-
3 steps. Instead of 2, or instead of 1.
So,
We could have just said, well, let's make a conditional use in commercial zone, we're just gonna make it a conditional use. If that's what the planner said, then we could have done that.
He said it should be an overlay. And he said it should be conditional, right? So,
That's fine.
conditional thing. So, I mean, do we just say, we don't want your advice to the person the town is paying to give us advice?
No, we said, hey, thank you for the advice, but what you're telling us to do makes the objective that the town is looking for harder.
what is the objective you think the town is like?
The town is looking to take those properties that are zoned commercial, that are up in the middle of the residence, and put them to a use that is not detrimental to those that neighborhood.
And because of existing structures on that lot.
Whatever, about, I
Excuse
don't
me.
care about state structures.
Yeah, it does matter, because that violates our current ordinance, and that is, and that is not what the town wanted. So I have to disagree with your interpretation of that, and I really don't like how twice at this meeting, it's been intimated by people at this table that others are here acting, surreptitiously or lying. And I will not have that kind of behavior. Everybody here is giving up their time. Everybody here comes with a different set of experience. And we need to respect that and treat each other respectfully. And I don't think that's what's happening. There is nothing but good intentions here. But sometimes our ordinances do not allow for uses. And we are trying to make this. And at the previous meeting, I think it was you, Cameron, who said, I'm not just talking about this one person, I'm looking at the future. And that's what we're really trying to do here. And we've been working really hard to find a compromise. Yes.
Specific question. That question was responded to in a way because the question was designed to elicit an answer. When you make something harder to do, you make it less likely to happen. That was the question I asked,
Correct.
and I was told, no.
But I don't know if the intent is to make it harder. It might make it harder, but don't you feel that probably the intent is to make it so that it fits and works in the conditions that are there?
I feel like the intent of this, what's been done right here, I feel like what the intent of this, to make it more complicated, is to make it harder. I don't see any other reason for it. I'm opposed to making it I'm opposed to even making it conditional. If there's another structure, if there's another house on the property and the property is not big enough to accommodate all the uses, then that's fine. Then it doesn't get it. But to make this harder than any other use, because that's what you've done. We've made it harder than any other use in the commercial zone. You can put in you could have, before we removed gas station, you could have put in a gas station with less steps than a duplex. You can put in a convenience store, you can put in a retail shop with less steps, easier than you can put in a duplex.
This is all true. However, this is a use that does not currently exist in our code. And in the past, because of a lack of due diligence or whatever you want to call it, but a lack of planning, we made a decision as a town that hasn't been the best for the town as a whole. And that's what we're trying to do here, and we are really trying to make this work. Because we could frankly just say it's not a permitted use.
You could do that, I don't doubt that, and as far as people insinuating bad faith and bad things about other people, thank you for insinuating that about me, and the things that I felt too. You just said that the town made bad decisions, they did bad things without proper planning that didn't work well for members of the town. I was a part of that process, so you just degraded me, so thank you. I'm fine, I don't care if you do that. What I'm saying is, you're making this use harder than anything else in that zone. Which means that you're less likely
The
to
question
get.
I put to you is, maybe you could write an alternate ordinance.
Yes, I can write an alternate ordinance. Do you want me to write one? Sure. No one here will vote for it? Maybe I'll get Kent. Because it's gonna be so far different than this.
Or you could read these in advance and add comments, and we can have a discussion and come to a consensus, which is what I like, because I think everybody's viewpoint is important. I do think your viewpoint is important.
I love the idea of SharePoint allowing us all to make comments on things as we go along. And I think that if you guys could do that, it would be fantastic. And maybe we wouldn't have to have these sorts of showdowns. There's no intention to make it harder to get a two-family permit. It was following instructions and also enlarging this overlay to address a lot of concerns that people have in residential areas, but also to expand to a whole bunch of uses that ordinarily would not be happening. And so I think that there may be a trade-off there, but I think it's worth it.
It's not blatantly obvious that this just made it much harder. Like, it's not hard, but it's harder.
Okay.
So now, cause let me show you. If I want to do a retail store in commercial place, all I do is I go to the town, I get a permit, I follow the guidelines, I build my store. If I want to do a duplex in commercial, now I have to come to the town, present the plan, come and get an overlay zone. Then I have to file a conditional use permit, then I have to get my conditional use permit, and then I have to put in all my paperwork to the town, and then I'm done.
Right? I think that makes it sound harder than it actually would be, as long as it was an allowed use. There's no question that the conditional use permit would go through because, as I said before, it's an administrative decision. The overlay, if you read it, it can at times be automatic. So there's,
You cannot have a zone change that's automatic, it has to have a public hearing.
Conditional uses are also presented to planning and zoning.
Well, her new outline would be, no public hearing, but it would be have to come to planning zone.
not if it's an overlay that is placed on the map. That the town, just like you were talking before about how the town rezoned, highway resort zone.
Yes, they had to have a public hearing. for all that.
Yeah,
And they had to send
the
out
town would
letters.
have a public hearing, but that doesn't mean everybody who used that zone would have to have a public hearing, so, yeah.
But the town's not gonna go through and make this overlay zone on all of commercial. Right?
Well, if you read it, yes, it's a buffer zone.
That makes 0 sense. If the town is just gonna go overlay this overlay over all of commercial. And then what?
That
That makes no sense.
Not all commercial, just where it's within so many feet of residential.
So you'd be lot splitting,
Hmm.
you'll be lot splitting.
Essentially. It's just the uses of the overlay are the only commercial uses there. And there are a lot more there than there are in commercial, so. I think, yeah, I don't think that there's going to be. I think it's going to be a very simple process. If we were to adopt these things as they are.
No, it would not be a simple process. Not as simple as doing a convenience store.
Right.
It would be no more difficult than asking for having to appeal to town council and then to us and having a new ordinance written to change the ordinance to allow for one person to use one use. That's burdensome to the town as well.
I don't disagree, but we wouldn't even be having this discussion if that didn't happen.
But it's not an allowed use as it is,
I don't.
based on our ordinances.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you on that. I've never disagreed with you on that.
So I would suggest a careful reading, and if you have clarifying questions, to reach out. And have a discussion. Because I think everybody sitting here does have good intent.
I didn't say anyone had bad intent.
I would disagree.
I said that this made it harder,
No, you accused.
and I said that
me.
I thought it intentionally. I accused her of lying on one question that I asked.
But that is,
One question that I asked.
but that is not professional.
One question. So don't blanket state me that I accused someone of lying. That's lying against me. You just lied about what I
I
did.
did not.
You just said that I was accusing her of lying. I accused her of a lie. One.
Yes.
One
It's
lie.
mincing words.
I accused her of one lie.
There's better ways to get to the point, is what I'm saying.
Maybe there is better ways to get to the
We're
point.
gonna move on. So I think this discussion has made it very clear that it's important that we pre-read stuff. Yes. And for the most part, these are on for the next public hearing, which is like 20 days away. And I try to keep things whenever possible, at least a week into our folders. And there may be a time when I cannot do that, but that is my goal, and most of the time I get that goal. And I think it behooves us to come prepared with valid questions and ask questions like, tell me your thinking behind this, rather than be accusatory. Thank you to call this meeting. Are there any other items? I know we did not get to the discussion of the Blackmore proposal, but that also is not allowed by ordinances, so we can do that at another time as well. Are you looking for I am motion? I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.